All right, folks, welcome back to First and Short, your first place to get short bits of college football news and analysis. I am joined today by my co-host Aaron. My name is Mashfik, and we are back for episode 14, previewing week 6 of the college football season. Aaron, I know we talked about it before, but we're halfway there, man. We are getting through this season. So before we get started, we want to make sure everyone, please subscribe. Please visit us on the Spotify, on the Apple Podcasts. This is a great show to listen to as you are sitting in traffic headed to work, because that's what I do. And so would enjoy you guys joining us on those channels as well. Today's agenda includes that coaching carousel. It continues to turn. So we had a firing at Arkansas. We'll talk about that. We wanted to, obviously the AP Top 25, that's been out since Sunday. It came out actually after we filmed our episode, so maybe they need to wake up earlier. But we'll talk about some of the biggest movers that happened in that Top 25, and maybe, provide some thoughts there. We're going to obviously go ahead and figure out that weekend schedule for you and provide our picks. And we'll do a couple of deep dives for some of the biggest games for this weekend. So, Aaron, you saw Sam Pittman got fired from Arkansas. He finished his record there with a record of 32-34. His best season was back in 2021. He went 9-4. And so by definition, obviously, it's been pretty much downhill since then. The final nail in the coffin was that 56-13 home loss to Notre Dame, where, after the game, Arkansas athletic director, he mentioned that Pittman seemed to have lost the team, kind of in that loss, which understandable, losing by that bad at home. He was, an interesting statistic. They say it on TV a lot, but 7 and 19 in one possession games. I think that just shows bad coach. Like, that's a stat that shows bad coaching. It's not, you're right there. The small mistakes that you're making is what's making you lose those games, Yep. His buyout was around $8 million, which I'm sure, the Walmart Corporation will happily pay. Which, speaking of which, I don't understand why they have any type of NIL issues when Walmart is right there. The Sam Walton family's right there. What's the Cowboys owner name? Jerry Jones. Yeah, he's an Arkansas alumni. He's got all the money in the world. Why doesn't he put more money into that program? Yeah. In any case, Bobby Petrino, he was the offensive coordinator the last couple of years, or was it this year or last year? But he's the interim head coach now. We all know the story about his when he was the head coach back in the day. His inappropriate relationship with a staff member and that situation he had on a certain motorcycle, but. The other name to know is, of course, Rhett Lashley, the SMU head coach. He's brought that team back from the dead, quite literally. SMU had a death penalty back in 1987, and they've been largely invisible since then. So, he's from Arkansas. He's the former Razorback quarterback. I think that the way that he's been able to bring SMU back, 22-plus wins over the last few seasons, he can provide that extra juice and new blood that the Razorback program needs, and not necessarily, rely back on Bobby Petrino. So yeah, that's kind of where they're at. Aaron, any thoughts there on the Arkansas situation?
Yeah, man. I hate to see that happen to Sam Pittman. He just seems like such a good guy, right?
Yeah.
I've seen some of the post game interviews, and after he wins, he's like he was humble about his wins. I think I remember in one interview he was like, "Man, I just want to go drink a beer at home.
Drink a cold beer." Yep.
Yep, exactly, right? So, it's unfortunate, but, college football is a business, and it's not in the business of, being friendly or being a good person. It's in the business of winning. And like you said, with that statistic of losing that many games that close, right? It's like...
That comes down to the coaching.
Yeah, it comes down to the coaching. I'm not going to count Bobby Petrino out in this interim coaching era, right? Wow, the tables have turned. He's back.
Second chance.
Yeah, second chance. I'm interested to see if he's going to be able to, rally the troops and gather this team back. Because, when he left Arkansas, Arkansas is about to be at the height of, being that next level team.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what they do for the rest of the season, and if the season goes well, what's going to happen with this vacancy of a coaching position, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Solidifies his kind of position there.
exactly. So yeah, man, we talked about a lot of movement. Let's talk about movement in terms of the top 25 poll, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we had some teams that made some, the biggest movements upwards and downwards. So we're going to cover those teams that really took some jumps up in the rankings this week. First, you got Ole Miss, right? They went from 13 to a top 4 team in the nation. Deservingly so. They beat number 4 LSU this weekend. They jumped 9 spots, which is the largest jump by any season. So Lane Kiffin, I mean, I'm sure he's happy and he's hyped up, ready to, see how far this team can go, right? Next on the list, you got Alabama. They jumped up 7 spots from number 17 to number 10. They had a massive road win over Georgia this weekend, and the voters showed that, they're officially ready to put the Tide back into national conversations.
Yeah. Alabama, they had a slip up, but yeah, if you're able to do that in Athens, I think that's pretty good. I just wanted to provide one note on the Ole Miss thing. Like, maybe LSU didn't deserve, whatever ranking that they had, but at the end of the day, Ole Miss won by quite a bit, and so maybe they deserve it. That's great.
Yep. Hey, they're unbeaten. Somebody's got to beat them now. They're one of the top dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Next on the list, you got Oregon. They jumped up 4 spots from number 6 to number 2 in the nation. They are right behind Ohio State after their huge double overtime win over Penn State on the road. That was very impressive. They're considered now, the most dangerous team in the Big Ten.
So the top 2 teams are Big Ten. What a different world we live in.
Mm-hmm. Different world, right? But I mean, hey, it all comes down to this new playoff format, which I'm so excited about.
Yeah.
Back in the day, if those were just the top 2 teams, that's your BCS national championship. Now with this,
and one of them would have knocked each other out in the
exactly
in the Big Ten game.
Mm-hmm. Yep. On the latter end of this top 25 movement, we have some teams that took some downward movement, right? Florida State with the surprising upset of the weekend on, I think that was a Friday night. They got beat by unranked Virginia, who is now ranked 24 in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
They fell 10 spots from number 8 to number 18. Next, LSU, as we mentioned earlier, they took that loss to Ole Miss. So they basically almost swapped places. They dropped 9 positions from number 4 to number 13. So Brian Kelly, he's facing serious questions. Started off strong, won his game opener, but now go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say one of those questions is like, it's a rumor. Who knows if it has any, validity to it, but some of the questions he's getting and Nussmeier's getting is like the injury. Like, is Nussmeier injured? Some of the throws people were dissecting, and it's like, no, that looks like a throw he should be able to make. Why was it underthrown, right? So that's something that's out there. I don't want to put any extra thought behind it if it's not actually an injury, right? I don't want to peddle that, but that is some of the questions that he's getting now.
Man, quarterbacks, they're getting scrutinized this season really bad. Yeah. And then lastly, on a team that took a big downward movement, Georgia, they were at that number 5 spot and they dropped down 7 spots after losing to Alabama at home. Kirby Smart, his 33 game home winning streak was snapped. It was his one of his worst regular season losses in years. So yeah, the Dogs are looking to fight back and make sure they stay in playoff contention.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't remember the last time I've seen double digits for the Bulldogs, but same thing happened to Alabama earlier. I'm sure they can bounce back. So moving along, we want to talk about what the schedule is looking like for this weekend. From the outside looking in, it might look a little sleepy, but we were in a similar situation last year where it was looking sleepy around this week 6, week 7 type of thing, and then all hell broke loose. So maybe that's something we'll see again this year. So Saturday at noon, we're gonna go ahead and open up with Clemson at North Carolina. One thing I saw, the Tar Heels offense has been held to an average of under 12 points in the two Power Four matchups that they've had this season. So I think a big question there will be, can Clemson's defense, who's been underwhelming so far this year, can they capitalize on that one? Personally, I think they will. I don't think UNC is in a serviceable team football type of situation. I think Clemson will get the win here. Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, I hate to call this the battle of the mids, but that's what it feels like right now.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to hold that over North Carolina's head too much. I know Belichick, he's in his first year. So, I mean, if he's really, true to wanting to build this program, I'm going to give him some time. But I'm going to have to agree with you, and I'm going to say Clemson's going to find a way to win. I don't think North Carolina's ready to win a game like this.
Yeah. Sounds good. Then at 3:30 we have number 9 Texas going to Gainesville, Florida. This will be nice. We'll finally see Texas be able to play a decent defense, or at least a defense with a pulse once again. So we'll see how Arch has progressed since. We'll get a more actual representation of how Arch has progressed since that Week 1 matchup against Ohio State. I think I'm gonna go ahead and go with Texas on this one. I don't think Florida is good enough on both sides of the ball to win in this one. Maybe it'll be closer. Maybe Florida has figured something out or brought something special to this game that maybe they had this one circled. But yeah, I'm gonna pick Texas for this one.
Yeah, man. It feels like it's been so long since we talked about Texas in a big game. So, I'm trying to remember or see how they'll compete against real competition again. But I think Florida, they just lost their way this season. I don't think they're going to be able to rally the troops and make an upset of this one. I'm going Texas as well.
Yeah, and the latest thing I saw, I think DJ Lagway is still on his boot, so I'm not sure he's playing this weekend. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So yeah, also at 3:30, go ahead and have that second television up. Number 24 Virginia at Louisville. UVA. One really funny thing I saw: UVA has already surpassed their entire scoring output from last season. So, and UVA has, I guess, they were tied with Florida State, or they were second in scoring in the ACC. So they're probably first now, but. What a big turnaround for Virginia from last year. So obviously a big win against Florida State last weekend, and they're going to go ahead and look to continue that momentum. Louisville is undefeated, but none that would be considered a signature win just yet. I think Virginia's got this one in the bag.
Gonna go ahead and agree with you there. I really liked what I saw from that team last week. They seemed composed, made the right calls, and won a close game against a really, really good team. So, yeah, I'm going Virginia as well.
Cool. And then, man, you're going to need 3 TVs. Number 16, Vandy, is going to be at number 10, Alabama. We're going to do a deep dive on that one later, so we'll provide our picks for that in just a bit. Aaron, what do we have in the evening on Saturday?
Yeah, so Saturday, 7 p.m., we got number 11, Texas Tech, going to Houston. Both teams are 4-0. And they're both tied for third place right now in the Big 12. So it's going to be a week of separation for that conference as these teams, try to stay undefeated in both conference play and regular season play. I really, really like Texas Tech's offense. They're really explosive, even with their backup quarterback when, Morton goes down. So I got Texas Tech in this one.
Yeah, same. Texas Tech, obviously, we know them for their offense. Their defense is also top in the nation in various categories. I think they have enough firepower to win this one.
Nice. Okay. And then next on the schedule at 7:30, so you will need your dual TVs. We got Mississippi State going to number 9 Texas A&M. Mississippi State, even though they lost, they looked really good in their loss against Tennessee. They could be a real competitor in conference play this year as they play, Texas A&M, who looks to, remain unbeaten and hopes to, make their case to be a shoe-in for the college football playoff. I think it's going to be closer than people think.
You
But
think
I think
Texas A&M is overlooking Mississippi State, the other Bulldogs?
a night game at home, I don't think they will. I think they'll be super hyped up about it.
Yeah.
And I think, their offense is just going to find a way to make it happen and beat Mississippi State this weekend. What are your thoughts, Mash?
But you think it'll be close?
It'll be close.
We'll revisit that in just a little bit. Yeah, I think Mississippi State has improved a lot on offense. I think their defense has gotten some takeaways, but Texas A&M just has too many good players on both sides, and they're at home and it's at night, like you said. I think Texas A&M will be able to edge this one out. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And then the last game we have at 7:30 is number 3 Miami going to number 18 Florida State, which will be another deep dive. But I'm looking at our picks and games for the weekend. I don't think we disagreed on a single game this weekend.
Okay, let's make some money. Let's put some picks in.
Yeah. But yeah, speaking of those games and speaking of how close some of them will be, that brings us to our underdog of the week segment, right? So right now in the season, we're 4-2, so not too shabby, not too bad. Somewhat accurate for the season. I'm going right back to that Mississippi State Texas A&M game, right? The spread is right now at 14.5 points. I don't think Texas A&M is going to win by that much.
Yep.
Not saying Mississippi State's going to win the game, but I think
they'll keep it closer than 14.5 points for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, that one stuck out to me as well. I agree with that one.
Mm-hmm.
So that one's on FanDuel if you are interested. So one of our deep dives that we wanted to go over. So number 3, Miami Hurricanes will be visiting Tallahassee to play the number 18 Florida State Seminoles. This is obviously a huge in-state rivalry. It obviously has huge playoff implications. I think it's safe to say that both of these teams will make it to the playoffs. Obviously, we want to see who gets the higher seed, who gets the home field advantage, or who gets the bye round, the bye round. So, I think what both teams are going to be looking to capitalize on, right? FSU, they want to rebound. They maybe last week against Virginia, they were looking ahead towards this Miami matchup, in which case maybe they are better prepared for this one. Maybe that loss was a fluke, who knows? But a surprising loss either way. It just adds another, surprising twist to the journey that is 2025 Florida State. You start the season beating Alabama, and then you lose to UVA, who's not known necessarily for their football program. But anyway, anything can happen. Miami is undefeated, and obviously they look like a top-tier contender. So Miami's going to look to continue that momentum. I think the 2 units in this game that I am most excited to see, Miami's defense, especially their rush defense against Florida State's run game. Miami's defense has been suffocating at all levels. They're only allowing 11.5 points per game, and their run defense is only allowing 2.6 yards per rush. That's good for top 10 in the CFB. And Florida State is number 1 in rushing yards per game. So it's, a classic immovable object, unstoppable force type of thing. I think the key to this game is simple for each of these teams. Can Florida State's offensive line crack through Miami's defensive front? Whoever can win that battle, I think that's going to be the team who's most likely going to win the game, right? And so that's what I'm most excited to see between these two teams. Florida State's going to have to run the ball, in between the tackles when they do run the ball, because Reuben Bain Jr. is on one side and Akeem Messador is on the other side. They're both waiting on ends of that defensive line, and they're ready to eat you alive. So you're going to have to go through the middle. And if Tommy Castellanos wants to sit back there and try to pass, one of those guys is going to come off the edge and, get to him. So Florida State's really going to have to rely on a dominant running game here. They're going to have to rely on what's made them special so far this year. Carson Beck, Miami's quarterback, he's been excellent. Obviously, he's been like night and day difference from what we saw last year at his time at Georgia. But, in a Miami uniform, this is his first, true high-stakes road game in a rivalry environment. he needs to be able to manage the crowd noise. The crowd finally has, a team that they want to cheer for, and he's going to be going up against a desperate Florida State defense that's been okay, not great. They're averaging a little over 1 takeaway per game, and Carson Beck, well, we've seen him at his lowest. We've seen what he's capable of doing. He can pass it to the other jersey for sure. So, Miami is talented, but occasionally turnover prone themselves. They're averaging close to 1 turnover per game. So this is the kind of rivalry game that comes down to 1 or 2 momentum shifting plays. If Florida State can win the turnover battle, that home crowd is going to take over. So that's just going to be something to watch out for.
Wow. Yeah. So rivalry games, you got to watch out for them. It can come down to a few things. So I got a question for you. Both of these coaches, they're coaching teams that are vastly improved from last year, much better, well-rounded. Which coach do you think has the edge here in this matchup?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'll start with, Mario Cristobal, Miami's head coach. He has shown that he really knows how to build a program from the ground up. Like, his high school recruiting is good. His transfer portal additions are good. He was, the offensive line coach back in the prime Saban days, and that's kind of how he's built his team from the offensive line out. And he emphasizes the line of scrimmage. He emphasizes, the trenches, and that's where his team has dominated. So that's kind of Mario Cristobal's philosophy and how he likes to operate his team. Mike Norvell, his high school recruiting isn't that great, but he knows how to pick them out of the portal. And he's also in a must-win, kind of territory to keep his Florida State team kind of united and competitive. Obviously, what happened last year, they slid, terribly. I can imagine players on that team might start seeing ghosts if they suddenly lose 2 back-to-back games, one of them being at home. He could maybe lose grasp of that team very, very quickly. So, he's kind of in that must-win territory, like I said. There's a lot riding on this game, and a lot of decisions that will be, kind of magnified and dissected, because at the end of the day, this is the highest level, football being played in Florida. Whichever team wins will have bragging rights for the entire state. With that being said, I think Mario Cristobal probably has that edge. To your original question, he has deeper roots in Florida. He has shown some questionable playmaking, but I think over the years. But I think he's gotten better on that. But I think Mario Cristobal just has the more talented team, so I think he'll have the edge here. But with both of these teams, with University of Florida being mostly out of the picture right now, one of these two teams and their fan bases feels like this is their time to capitalize while they can. Mm-hmm. I did want to provide some keys to winning. What does each team have to do in order to win the game this weekend? For Miami, I've mentioned it a few times. Their line of scrimmage, especially their offensive line, grind out that average Florida State defense by running it down their throat over and over again. Their defensive line, I mentioned those 2 players who are amazing, first-round pick type players, make Florida State one-dimensional. Carson Beck, the key that he has to follow is just control what he can control and avoid any costly mistakes. The rest of his team can win this game for you. Don't do anything you don't have to do and give away the win. I think Florida State, what they need to do, I think it falls a lot on Castellanos. Do what Florida State brought you in here to do. Keep Miami's defense on their heels. Make them confused. Make them commit. Make them commit to going one way while you go the other. He is very talented at doing that. They need to make sure they lean into that for this game. And the defense for Florida State, they have to affect Carson Beck. That's a non-negotiable, I think. Miami is too good at running the ball. They can grind out the time, the clock of the game. If they have to get Carson Beck to pass, and Because if Miami's just going to keep running the ball, they're going to, that's going to open up an explosive play at some point. So they're going to have to get to Carson Beck. That's a non-negotiable. With that being said, I think Miami will win this game. What about you, Aaron?
I'm gonna have to lean the other way.
Okay.
I know Florida State, they're coming off a tough loss. I think Mike Norvell, he's gonna find a way to gather his team, get them motivated, get them hyped. They're playing at home, so I think that may be another edge they have.
Yeah.
And even though they had a game that slipped up last week, it was a pretty competitive Virginia team. We've seen flashes of this team that's been great, especially against Alabama. So, yep, I'm going with the Noles.
It is a night game in Tallahassee, so that crowd should be a factor. So, not a bad choice.
Yep, it'll be a good one. Next on the list, our deep dive, we have number 16 Vanderbilt playing at number 10 Alabama. This is the battle of the undefeated and the revenge factor, right? Vanderbilt, let's talk about them a little bit first. They are 5-0 for the first time since 2008. So wow, they've made a complete turnaround.
Before I was born.
Yeah. So that's one of the most surprising stories in college football this year. This game between Vandy and Alabama, it's the first ranked matchup between the two since 1937.
Wow.
So yeah. Definitely before we're born then.
Yeah.
And ESPN's College Game Day is going to be there. So it's definitely going to be, the biggest game of the weekend on their radar. For Vanderbilt, this is the program-defining stage for the head coach, Clark Lee, right? And the question at hand is, are you a big dog, right? We've seen them dominate and be strong through the first half of the season, getting some good wins against, decent opponents, but now you're getting into conference play and you're messing with top-tier teams. And, you struck lightning last year. Can you do it twice? So, yeah, let's talk about, that lightning strike just a year ago. Vanderbilt, they handed Alabama a stunning, season derailing upset. Alabama this year, I don't think they're going to lack that motivation that we sensed last year. This revenge spot that they're wanting to get, at home is real. And I think the Tide are looking to, kind of reassert the traditional order, if you will, of the SEC.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you kind of talk about, some of the key players or key things each team has, I think about, Vanderbilt's biggest player, biggest star, Diego Pavia. Transfer quarterback who was, the newcomer of the year, I believe, last year in the SEC. He's continuing to have a sensational season at Vanderbilt this year. He's ranking at the top of the SEC in passing touchdowns with 13 passing touchdowns. And he's efficiently moving the ball with both his arms and legs. In terms of what he's facing a good Alabama defense, but they haven't seen anything more dangerous than Diego Pavia, since the season opener when they played Florida State. His performance under pressure is going to be critical in this matchup, right? But he's a pretty efficient, pretty good quarterback overall. Get this stat, right?
Okay.
So he's the highest rated QB in the SEC, and guess who's second behind him?
Who? Oh, is it Aguilar?
No, it's not Aguilar. It's Ty Simpson, right?
Okay.
Battle of the two, highest rated quarterbacks in the league is happening here in this game. Yep. A key matchup in this game that I think is going to be important is going to be, Alabama's passing attack versus Vanderbilt's secondary. So if you have to point out a weakness on this Vanderbilt team, it's definitely going to be their pass defense. They're ranking outside of the top 80 in yards allowed on defense, so they're at a national low. And you're facing Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson, and he could have a major advantage with how well his offensive line protects him and gives him plenty of time throughout the games to pass the ball. I mean, we saw it against UJ last week. He's a true field manager, and he won't make mistakes if you give him time.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you give him time and the Tide can hit up a couple of explosive plays early in the game, that could be trouble for Vandy, and this game could walk away from them very easily. So if you look at the spread statistically for Alabama, they're a 10.5 point favorite right now, playing at home. So while they are expected to win, Vanderbilt, since the last season has gone 12-5 against the spread, and Diego Pavia himself is 10-2 as an underdog in that same span. So they find a way to win when they're the underdog, and they always find a way to keep it competitive. So the question is, can they do it again against this top 10 Alabama team?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of good points there. Vanderbilt's looking like a real underdog here. What do you think they would have to do in order to win? What do you think Vanderbilt would have to do in order to win this game?
Sure. I think it comes down to a couple things. One, you got to score. Vanderbilt is a top 4 scoring offense in the nation right now. So if they continue to have this explosiveness against cream of the crop competition like Alabama, their chances to win are going to be outstanding. They almost average, I think, almost 50 points a game. Another thing they need to consider and do is, feed the superstar, feed Diego Pavia. He's the leading passer and rusher right now on the team.
Yeah, I'm glad Georgia's not playing. I'm glad Georgia's not playing Vanderbilt this year.
Yeah, I know. He's, he's been crazy impressive to watch, and he's a scary player to go against. Because how do you stop somebody that dual threat, right?
Yeah.
But Saban said it in one of his interviews. It's all about getting the ball to your best player in key moments. So watching his dominance, it kind of feels like you're watching a little league football game where you have the one good player against all the other kids who kind of do and don't want to play football. So you're just giving him the ball all different types of ways, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how well he thrives against this Alabama defense when they know he's the star and Vanderbilt wants to get the ball in his hands at all times.
I got a question on that. So obviously Alabama knows how they lost that first game against Florida State. It was because of a player like Tommy Castellanos. They know what Diego Pavia can bring. What are they going to do to try and affect him? What will Vanderbilt do, because they know that's going to come, to kind of attack them in retaliation?
Sure. So I think the first thing they're going to do is they're going to do pretty much two things. They're going to apply lots of pressure to Diego Pavia. They're not going to give him time to sit back there and make a decision to run or throw. And then secondly, they may have a spy on him, somebody dedicated to watching the star of the game the whole time and going where he goes. Mm-hmm. To counteract that, Diego Pavia is going to have to, depend on his other stars on the team. He's going to have to depend on the people that he distributes the ball to, and the run game is going to have to step up.
When there's a spy, when a spy is usually a linebacker, right?
Yeah, it could be a linebacker, or most times it could be an edge rusher, but it's somebody whose only assignment is to follow and watch, the quarterback most of the time.
And once he sees the spy, how do you attack that?
Once he sees the spy, I mean, he's got to find the hole in the defense, because he knows a man is taking out of that zone, right, or out of that man-to-man to guard a receiver, and so you got to find the weakness and be patient.
Nice.
The last thing that I think Vanderbilt has to do to win this game, they've got to slow down Alabama scoring. I don't think this performance, by Vanderbilt is going to be pretty in any matter, but what I do think they'll be able to do is make adjustments and limit how much they're going to get killed in the passing game, right? If they can somehow keep this Alabama team under 30, maybe even 24 points, I think their chances are pretty good.
Nice. What do you think Alabama was going to have to do to win this game?
Yeah, I think it comes down to a couple of simple things. Don't be complacent, right? I think last year they came into the game and they were just super complacent, confident.
They had just beat Georgia, right?
Just beat Georgia. They were ranked number 1 in the country. They were playing a Vanderbilt team who was, systemically known for being, mid to lower tier of conference play. So don't be complacent. Never take a Saturday for granted, right? The next thing that I think they need to do is give Ty Simpson time. If you give him time, he's going to lead you to the promised land, in my opinion. He's a guy who's a really, field general, field manager. He's going to make sure that he makes the right decision and gets the balls to the right players like Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, I think they have to establish a run game. Jam Miller, he's back for a second game, coming off the collarbone injury. They have got to have a balanced attack. We saw last week, Georgia struggled in the first half to really stop Alabama's offense. Once they, adjusted and stopped the passing game a little bit, Alabama tried to run the ball, but couldn't really get much going with Jam Miller or any of the other backs. So if they don't get this going now or in the next couple of games, it's going to be trouble when you get into the thick of conference play. Yeah. And so bottom line here, I don't think Alabama takes this opportunity lightly after, a big win. They're not going to take it for granted. I think they're going to have a point to prove, and they're going to do everything to not allow this game to slip away. I think the Tide defense and Ty Simpson at quarterback will shine, and I think that Alabama is going to win this one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, they're not going to have a repeat of last year, this exact same situation. I don't think Alabama's going to go perfect this whole season, but I don't think this is the place they're going to slip up. I think Alabama's going to win this one.
Righty. Well, yeah, that pretty much wraps up our Week 6 preview. Nice. So coming up on the horizon, we'll be back Sunday to review the games. We're going to provide some video analysis, and we're going to talk through some of the biggest losers and winners of the weekend. That's all we have for now. Thank you for tuning in, and be on the lookout for more episodes from First and Short.
Peace.